You could worry about anything, I should know, because I've done plenty of that in my life. But here's the thing, it's optional. You really don't have to worry. Now, I know that hardly anybody ever told you that. Maybe nobody actually told you that. Certainly, very few people, if any, have told you how it's possible to stop worrying, but it is, and I'm going to share with you today exactly how you can do that. So I'm going to share with you, I wrote down some of the ways in which I used to worry. And this is not by any means meant to be an exhaustive list, because if I tried to do that, we'd be here all day and then some. But as I do this, you could also think about ways in which you have worried, things you've worried about, and put them in the chat. And then once I've gone through the ways that I've worried, I can read some of the ways you've worried. And we can maybe start to see that we're not all that different. So I worried about what my parents thought of me, what my friends thought of me, what popular kids thought of me, what my teachers thought of me. I worried about what other people in general thought of me. Now, to be fair, that's awfully general. Let me be a little bit more specific. So, when I was in seventh grade, my friend Bill, and I won't mention his last name so that he can remain anonymous, gave me a pornographic magazine that he found under his father's bed. It was apparently a very large stack of them, so his father wasn't going to miss any of them. He lent me one, he gave me one, and I had to find a place to hide it. So I hid it deep underneath the mattress of my bed, but I was always worried my mom was going to find it. Sorry, Mom. I used to, as a child, worry that the military was going to attack my childhood home. I worried about how much dietary fat was in potato flakes, rice, beans, and every other food. I would read all of the nutritional labels repeatedly just to make sure. I worried why my body looked the way it did. I worried about whether I had mucoid plaque in my colon. It was a thing. I worried about chlorine in the water. I worried about cell phones and radio waves. I worried about cigarette smoke. I worried about agricultural pesticides. I worried about commercial and residential pesticides. I worried about fluoride. I worried about deforestation. I worried about oil spills and mercury in fish. I worried about air pollution and beta amyloid plaque formation. I worried about heavy metals in food and air and water. I worried about running out of money. And when I did run out of money, I worried whether I'd ever get any more money. I worried about making mistakes. I worried about not knowing whether God wasn't just the devil in disguise. That one got me for a while. Think about it. I worried about eternal suffering. I worried about sugar. I worried about McDonald's. I worried about Coca-Cola. I worried about Zyklon B. I worried about medical waste incineration. As I said, the list could go on and on and on. I wonder some of the things you've worried about. So some of you have shared here in the chat. I'll read some of those and you can keep adding. Uh, we've got bills and homelessness, money, things going wrong in the physical world, like things breaking down, death and loss. What if I paid for the less optimal version of a supplement? Worried about God being a psycho. Hey, that's kind of like mine. Worried about being judged for surrendering my cat. Worried of failure. Worried about physical pain. Hey, I forgot that. I brief story. At one point when I was in my, this must have been 1920. I had a friend who had a feral cat. No, it was it's a stray cat, not a feral cat, but she gave birth to a litter of kittens underneath his house, and he was going to trap them and kill them. And I said, no, 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 hold on. I'll I'll trap them and save them, and I'll bring them into my apartment. And so I had like God knows how many of these kittens, but they were feral, and the last thing they wanted to do was be in my apartment, and that was a big disaster. So I then went through a whole drama of, what do I do with these kittens? And so I had worry about that. About dying in this same situation in life, about getting cancer, about if Source was watching and judging me during spicy time. Spicy time. Spicy time. Got it. Spicy time. Took me a second to understand. Yeah. Where to live that's safe, gaining weight, getting older, corn syrup and foods. Hey, we got a little bit in common there. Bad food combining. Yeah. See, that's the mucoid plaque. Same kind of thing. We read the same kind of books. Making everyone in the family happy. Something happening to kids. Worried about never getting my period again when I was anorexic, and then worried about losing it again after recovery. Worried about breathing normally. I was raised in a religious cult. I was worried about everyone that wasn't in the group, that they were going to harm or murder me. Wars. I was definitely worried about what my parents thought and the rest of the world thought about me. I have probably 5% of that fear of judgment left now. Amazing. So, you know, if you really started to think about it, though, you could realize, I mean, like I said at the beginning, you could worry about anything, anything at all. I mean, because people have worried about just about everything. And so, if you think about it, though, you probably oftentimes think that you have to worry about the things that you have to worry about. Right? I mean, it's like, seems like there are important things to worry about for you in that moment. So you just keep on worrying until you don't. And then you find something else to worry about. So what are we going to do? We're just going to go through life until we die, just worrying, 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 worrying until we finally kick the bucket. Is that what life is meant to be? I mean, we weren't given any options. Nobody sat us down and said, you know, I know you have this habit of worrying, but did it ever occur to you that there might be another way? Because nobody else knew there was another way. Your parents didn't know, your teachers didn't know, the priests didn't know, the neighbors didn't know, your grandma didn't know, your grandpa didn't know. Nobody knew. Your friends didn't know. Friends could get you a Penthouse magazine, but they couldn't help you out in any way that really mattered. Well, like I said, I'm here to share with you that there is another way that you don't have to worry. Worrying is it just is depleting your life force. It's just squandering your life energy. It's not doing you any good. I know it seems like you have to worry, but just tell the truth. The worrying never did you any good at all. I'm not saying that sometimes it might not be useful to do a little bit of constructive thinking or planning, but that's not what worry is. Worry isn't that at all. Worry is just worry, 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 worry. How am I going to get everything absolutely perfectly secured so that nothing bad ever happens, so that everything is known and I'm in control of everything all the time? That's what worry is about, which is insane because it's never going to happen. Haven't you noticed? But we keep on doing it. I mean, I was there, I was. Can you imagine? I was like, how old was I? I don't know, 11, 12, 13, maybe. And every day I would read the boxes, the bags with the nutritional information on it over and over and over like it had changed, you know? Like I got to make sure nothing changed, that I didn't miss anything every single time, the minute rice. I've got to make sure that that hasn't changed from yesterday to today. God forbid I should get, a half a gram of fat in my diet. And again, I know it seems like, I mean, you're like, oh my God, Joey, you were a mess. Thank God I'm not like that, you say. And I admit, I mean, I've done things to a more extreme fashion than most people. I admit that. But it's not really that different than you. It's not that different from anybody else. Because I know you think, oh, I have to worry about my kids. I've got to worry about the bills. I've got to worry about the wars. I've got to worry about the crooked politicians. I've got to worry about all the things. And it seems like it's a really important thing to worry about. It seems like it's different. It seems like, Joey obsessing over whether there's a half a gram of fat in minute rice and me worrying about my children they're so very different. Yes and no. Because again, is there anything constructive that's coming from that worry? And you can say no, because there's nothing constructive whatsoever that comes from it. All that comes from it is that it stresses you out and it creates problems between you and your children. I mean, come on. That's it. It doesn't do anything good. So I'm making a distinction between worry and constructive use of thought. So I'm not suggesting necessarily, I could, but I won't, that all thought is inherently problematic and unnecessary. All I'm making a distinction between right now is worrying and everything else. And I'm saying, let's just get clear about this category of worry and let's get clear that it doesn't do any good whatsoever, that it serves no useful purpose in our lives. And then we can look at how is it possible that we can actually stop worrying. I mean, and I'm harping on this point about it being a useless activity because if you don't understand that, then you're probably not probably, you will definitely continue the habit. It's a habit. Habits don't stop just because of willy-nilly reasons. They stop because you actually make the choice from clarity. So you have to get clearer in order to stop that habit. Otherwise, it's just going to continue based on momentum. So the habit of worry, as long as that seems like it's benign or neutral or only mildly harmful, then it's very likely that you'll continue to do it. So that's why I'm over and over hitting on this, that it's a useless and harmful habit. Can you see that? Is there anybody here who disagrees? If you do, please let me know in the chat so that we can get that cleared away. Because if you still think that it's just, it's like it's not a big deal, who cares? Everybody does it. Why are you making such a big deal out of this, Joey? I mean, come on. What's your problem? So nobody's going to cop to. You're all on board. You all get it. You agree with me. Worry is a useless thing. Okay. So so if we're all in agreement on that, then we can get right to it. And how do you stop worrying? And the answer to that, anybody want to guess? Anybody? It's the ask framework. Which is there anybody here who has not watched the video? If so, be honest about it. You haven't, but you were here. You were here live. So anybody here who has no familiarity? You forgot what it was about. Well, you better go watch the video before I take it down. So I've been this is amazing. I've been um I've been emailing every day for like almost a week now about these videos. And still some people aren't watching them, which is amazing. But and there's a possibility I might post this on YouTube. So let me just say for the people who watch this on YouTube and you're like, what are you talking about, Joey? The Ask framework. Well, I mean, most people will have already tuned out by this point. But for the few who are still hanging around and like, what are you talking about? Well, it's proprietary information. It's available to those who are on my email list. Why, you might say? Why not just put it on YouTube? Because if I put it on YouTube, it's cheap and nobody's going to actually make use of it. And that's the truth. And somebody's going to say, well, I would make use of it. Okay, you alone. And maybe that's enough reason to put it on YouTube. But just you want to use it, you want to know how to use this framework. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail today, um, but if you want to really understand it, then you just got to go to my website. I'll put a link in the description on YouTube, and you just click on that link, and there'll be information there so that you can get access to it. There's not, it's totally free, but you got to jump through a little hoop in order to get access to it, so that people who are serious will actually make use of it. Because it's like if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to do that one little thing, then who are you fooling? You think you're going to make use of the framework? Nah. So, um, so the answer is the ask framework. Now, specifically, notice worry. What does worry consist of? I'll tell you what I think it consists of, and then you can tell me if you agree or disagree. I think that worry consists of negative use of imagination coupled with feelings. Because you wouldn't keep doing it unless it was emotionally charged. If there were no feelings attached to it, you wouldn't keep doing it, right? You'd think the thought, you'd visualize the thing, and you'd be like, boring. On to something more exciting. So it has to be emotionally charged. You have to. When I when I was looking at the box of minute rice, reading the label over and over and over and over, it was because there was an emotional charge attached to that. There was this negative use of visualization, of imagination. Oh, what if something, what if I was wrong? What if there was something in there that I didn't know about? What if that's going to get me into trouble? What if I'm going to end up having a bad life because of that? And then it's emotionally charged, which is what kept me going back to it over and over and over and over and over. It has to be emotionally charged. Anybody disagree with that? Anybody ever worry and there's not an emotional charge? You can say no, because there would have to be an emotional charge. Otherwise, it's not worry. So we have negative use of imagination and emotional charge. And that's what worry is. And then that keeps you just trapped in it, just doing it over and 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 over. You just keep doing it because you don't know how to get out of that trap because of the emotional charge. Make sense? So now why so that emotional charge is specifically because your nervous system believes somehow that there is some kind of threat. Right? I mean, you wouldn't be doing that if there wasn't some perception of threat. Hence, for those who are familiar with the ask framework, that's why we ask the question, is there any real danger right now? Because we want to get clear right now, actually, the truth is, right in this very moment, no real danger. I could invent danger. I could imagine danger. I could worry about danger. But real danger right now, none. And if that's not clear to anybody, watch the presentation about the ask framework because I go into some detail about it there. So that's the first thing. But that's largely an intellectual exercise. Useful, necessary, but it's still an intellectual exercise. So if that was all that we did, it would be a very slow path to making change. Fortunately, we can actually dramatically accelerate that rate of change by recognizing this really fundamental quality of the experience of worrying, which I've already talked about, which is it's this negative use of imagination, or I could say negative use of thought. So I'm using the term thought not just to apply to the abstract concepts or words, but any use of the mind directed at certain things. That in this particular case, the mind is being directed at some kind of negative, unwanted outcome. So worry continues to happen so long as that pattern happens without interruption. Because I should say actually, as long as it continues without conscious interruption. Because I'm sure most people have probably found some kind of way of momentarily distracting themselves from worry, right? You could, watch TV or engage in sex or, eat in whatever way you do compulsively, uh, drugs, alcohol, a lot of different things that will temporarily work, but they don't fundamentally change anything because there's not a conscious intervention. So, in order to make the change, really, there has to be a conscious intervention. So, the habit has attention fixated on the thoughts, unwanted negative thoughts about, oh, this might happen. Oh, that might happen. Oh, no, that would be awful. I have to make sure that doesn't happen. What will I do? What will I do? Woe is me. And in order to change that, I'm proposing we need a conscious intervention, which is why in the ask framework, I give these two options. You don't have to use, they're not the only two options that are available. Anything that allows you to shift your attention to your direct experience will work. So that's the key, is that you remain conscious. You're not going unconscious or more unconscious, but you're actually being conscious, but consciously directing your attention to something else. And what I found is that directing attention to direct experience, not the thoughts about what's happening, but the actual direct experience of what is. So you could notice right now, for example, that your body is in contact with some surface. You're sitting, you're lying down, you're standing, you're leaning, whatever is happening. And you could notice that there's sensation, which out of habit you associate with and assign the meaning of that is my body against some surface. That's the meaning that you give it. But you could notice that before that thought, there's the actual direct experience. The direct experience is not an experience of body making contact with something. The direct experience is before the thought about it. It doesn't have any meaning. It's just direct. This is like beginner's mind. Right? You don't know what this is. You don't know anything about what any of this is. You have habits, you have learned all kinds of things, and that's all totally fine. You don't have to get rid of that. I mean, that would be kind of a difficult way to live, right? If you couldn't understand anything, if you if you couldn't understand that you have a body, if you couldn't understand the the learned significance of sensations, that would be a very difficult way to live. If you couldn't understand the significance of the sounds that are coming from people's mouths, that would be difficult. So beginner's mind doesn't mean that you have to get rid of those things. I mean, you could get rid of those things through some kind of, like brain surgery, but that's probably not what you want because, as I said, that would just make living difficult. But fortunately, you don't need to do that because you have this capacity to recognize what is before all of that. And that's all that's really needed. Because in that, there's the realization that you are before all of that. Think about it. If you are aware of what is before thought, that means you have to be before thought. So the significance of that, which may or may not sink in immediately, but does eventually with repeated exploration, more and more, the realization is, well, I'm always free. I'm always okay. I'm actually always safe, regardless of what is happening. Now, at an extreme, maybe there could be things that happen to the body that you might not consider to be desirable. So the body might not be safe, right? I mean, is there anybody here who has found a way to absolutely guarantee and ensure that the body will be safe forever? If so, please let me know. You, I'll team up with you and we can make millions, billions, because everybody wants a piece of that. But nobody's found it. So if your okayness, if your basic sanity, if your peace depends upon securing what is impossible to secure, then you're in a lot of trouble. And in that case, you'll just keep on worrying. Doesn't that make sense? You'll just keep on worrying if you, in order to stop worrying, you have to secure what cannot be secured. If you have to have an absolute rock solid guarantee that never ever will anything undesirable, scary, or unpleasant ever happen to you, nobody that you love will ever get hurt or die. You will never get hurt or die. You'll never end up in the cold. You'll never end up homeless. You'll never end up wanting for anything. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous, isn't it? But that's exactly how we're thinking. We're thinking, I'll be okay, I'll have peace, I'll have sanity in the future, then I'll be able to stop worrying once I finally got it all locked down and under this absolute control. I mean, you each of us has within us a tiny little dictator who wants to be ruler of the universe, who thinks this fool named God needs to just get out of the way and let me take over because I know exactly how it all should be. Oy vey. So, so the mind just keeps on going. It just goes on and 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 on. And it's going to keep going on for as long as it does. So this is another mistake that people make. They think, oh, I've got to make the mind stop. I'll finally be at peace when my mind stops. Then I'll stop worrying. Well, again, you could consider brain surgery, not as a profession. I'm not meaning to denigrate brain surgeons and suggest that they're brain dead. I'm saying that you could opt for a destructive form of brain surgery, but you don't want to do that. So you don't have, the good news is you don't have to stop thought. Let the thought happen. I mean, just try it right now. Notice. Let the thought happen. Just let the thoughts happen. Here a thought, there a thought, everywhere a thought, thought. It just keeps on thinking. Oh, I forgot to, did I forget to turn off the stove? Sorry to do that one to you. But that's another one I used to work. I still have those thoughts. Maybe I forgot to, maybe I forgot to turn this thing off or that thing off. So many things to turn on and off. Fortunately, most of the things are not that important, but there are the few things that really can get a brain going. Maybe I forgot. Well, go check if you need to, but you don't need to think about it. I love that. Somebody put a camera in their kitchen. Great. Amazing. That way you can monitor it wherever you go. You got it. I assume it connects to you can monitor that from your phone. But then, what if you lose cell service? Oh man. I live in a place that has no cell service and that weirds people out, I gotta say. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're walking around because there is one little point where they can get service if they walk around, but they got to find it. Oh man, where was I? Yeah, thoughts. They just keep going and let the thoughts go. And every once in a while you'll have uh it's not S service, it's just service. Sorry, I don't speak clearly. Cell service, cellular service, phone service, mobile phone service, mobile phone. There you go. Now we connected. Makes sense. Um, us Americans, we are an odd bunch. We call things by funny names. We call petrol gasoline. We shorten that to gas. Yeah, and we have what you would call mobile phones. We call them cell phones. Cell phones. So, the thoughts just keep happening. God bless them. And the thing is, you can it's an amazing thing. So amazing. There is an intelligence in you that is actually able to tell the difference between a useful thought and a useless thought. Did you know that? You don't have to be monitoring all the time. You could just let go. And if there is a useful thought, it will be brought to your attention and you can act on it. But most of us don't know that. So we think I've got to monitor every single thought and I've got to treat every single thought equally. It doesn't matter how insane it is. The military was going to attack my house. It's insane. I mean, I can have some compassion because this was like, a 5-year-old kid who had this. I'm sure he, one too many cartoons. Are you just allowing the thoughts to happen now? Do you notice how nice that is? You don't have to stop anything other than stop all the unnecessary effort to get hold of something or figure something out or fix something. You could just let it all be. So, have any of you been able to stop worrying for a moment? Not just because you were entertained, but actually consciously. Thank you. Yes, some people. So then what happens? Maybe it hasn't happened to you yet. And hopefully it will never, ever, ever happen to you again, but it could happen. Could happen. It could happen that you find yourself worrying again. And if you find yourself worrying again, guess what? Just rinse and repeat. Just that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do at any time. Because the habit has a tendency of reasserting itself. Like I said, hopefully it won't for you, but it might happen. Sometimes happens for some of us that we find ourselves again fixated on those worrisome thoughts. Again with the emotional charge. Oh no. Let me read the nutritional label again. And all you have to do. And it doesn't matter how long that habit has been going, it could reassert itself and it could go on for an hour or 2 hours or 5 hours. It could go on for a week. And at any point when you notice it and you remember that you have an option available to you, you can just implement the ask framework and like that. Again, you're free. I mean, you were always free. You just didn't know it. You were compulsively using your own power against yourself. But the instant you become aware, you can make the choice so that you can free yourself of that habit in an instant. You know, I I am not perfect. I am not perfect. But I will say that I have been working with this insight for at least a dozen years. And it does happen over time that forget that I forget how it was. I can sort of remember, but not really. And so I start to get into this delusional state where I think, well, that's just how everybody's living the way that I do. I really start to think that. I think, well, I mean, why on earth would anybody be causing themselves unnecessary suffering? Nobody would be doing that. But then it comes to my attention that many people haven't gotten the good news yet. So your life can be very, very different. But the mistake that most people seem to make, I mean, first of all, there's so many layers of mistakes. But let's say by the point that a person would show up at a meeting like this or watch a video like this, The mistake that many people will make at this point is they'll think, couldn't be that simple. Despite the fact that you can demonstrate to yourself in an instant that it is that simple. But then the fact that the old habit reasserts itself will persuade some people, many people even, to then say, see, it wasn't that simple. And then they'll go off in search of more complicated answers. And they'll go on these 10-day Vipassana retreats. I'm not making this up. Some of you have gone on 10-day Vipassana retreats. And I'm not trying to denigrate the 10-day Vipassana retreats. I'm just saying that it's an unnecessary complication for what it is that you really want. There are, I'm sure there are many benefits that can be had from a 10-day Vipassana retreat, or maybe even from an ayahuasca. Right there in the chat, I was just going to say ayahuasca retreat. Maybe there is, maybe benefits to that. Maybe benefits to many things. And some of them, they're just bad news. But if you think that you need to do those things first before you can stop worrying, then that's incorrect. And you make your life unnecessarily complicated and painful if you believe that. Because then you think, well, when's the next, the next 10-day Vipassana retreat that I can attend is, it's like a month away and it's going to set me back by what? I mean, they're not cheap. I mean, even without travel expenses, you're still probably looking at a couple grand. So all told, you might be out, 4 or 5 grand to go on a 10-day Vipassana retreat. And it's going to be a month off. So you're saying, well, I have to suffer for at least another month. And I have to do a bunch of work in order to get the 5 grand together so that I can have the hope of stopping the worrying. And you could stop worrying now, right in this instant. And if you start worrying again, you could stop worrying again. You see, that's all that's necessary. And so then some people will say, well, that sounds like hard work. Well, what can I say? Uh, some self-honesty can be really useful, like how hard is your life right now? Because it's not that easy, is it? It's not that easy to suffer. It's not that easy to keep on indulging in all the compulsive bad habits, worry being just one of them. So, does it sound hard? I don't know. I mean, no, it doesn't sound hard at all, but I guess I could understand why it seems hard. Because at first it seems like you've got to do something. But what it really is that you need to become aware of what it is that you're already doing, because your natural state is peace. Your natural state is harmony. Your natural state is happiness. That's natural to you. You don't have to do something for that. That's already there. It's given. What you have to do something for is suffering. You have to do the worrying. Now, it doesn't seem that way because it's the habit. The habit is to do all of the self-harm. So you don't even know, you don't even recognize most of what it is that you do to harm yourself, such as worry. because it's a habit. So at first, it seems like you have to do something to intervene. Fine, fair enough. But if you really sincerely apply what it is that I'm suggesting, then you find out it's really strange to find out that, I mean, you just check it out. Notice you have to do suffering. If you're not doing anything, you're totally fine. It's only the moment that you start doing the suffering. Now, I'm not saying that all activity is suffering. I'm just saying that the activity of suffering is an activity. Suffering is an activity, and you don't have to do it. It's just a habit. And because it's a habit, it happens without thinking. Well, it happens with thinking, but without conscious awareness. So you could stop worrying now. Any other objections? Somebody's getting their note taker in just now. It's amazing. I don't know how to. I'm just going to have to make peace with that. I mean, I don't have to make peace with it. I choose to make peace with it, but fascinating. Stoicism. I don't know anything about Stoicism, so I can't speak to that. But if you have objections, let me know in the chat. Things like if you think why this wouldn't work for you. That way I can address those. So I've got I'm so used to living with worry, even now whilst thinking about this and accepting I was worrying about worrying again. Yeah. Oh, and somebody else can relate to that. Great. So, I mean, first of all, yes, that's right. You're so used to living with worry. And the amazing thing is that you were able to recognize that, which means that this can absolutely work for you. Everything that I've proposed. So imagine for a moment that you have a habit of hitting yourself with a hammer. And you've been doing this for as long as you can remember. Seems to happen automatically. Now, somebody points this out to you and they say, did you notice that you're hitting yourself with a hammer? And you, wow, holy cow, I'm hitting myself with a hammer. And then you think, and as you're thinking about it, you hit yourself with a hammer again. You're like pondering this whole thing. You're like, that's amazing. I've been hitting myself with a hammer. You hit yourself with a hammer again. And you think, well, this is really distressing that I'm hitting myself with a hammer. You hit yourself again. I don't want to hit myself with a hammer. I don't know what to do about this. This is so awful that you hit yourself with a hammer again. I don't know what I'm going to do. The fact that you've become aware of it means that you can stop. You just continue to apply the ask framework and see what happens. If you either way, let me know what results you get. Here's my prediction. My prediction is that if you sincerely apply the ask framework every single day, within 2 weeks, you're going to notice a significant reduction of worry. I'm not saying all worry will have stopped, but you will notice a significant reduction in worry and you will feel empowered to continue to reduce the habit of worry. That's my prediction. Somebody says, my objection is people. So people, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a lot of them. And they don't do what you want them to do. I don't know if there's an expression in English. The expression is it's like herding cats. I don't know if that translates well to other languages and cultures, but if you know anything about cats, you could think about cats, the animal, meow, meow, that kind of cat. I think they don't say meow, meow in other languages, but maybe you know what I'm talking about. Now, if you know anything about cats, do cats like, do cats, is it a commonplace thing to train cats to sit? And you can say no, because cats don't take instruction very well. Not to say it's impossible, they're just independent thinkers, as it were. So the idea of herding cats is the suggestion is that it's like an impossible task. So trying to control other people, thinking that other people need to behave in particular ways, is just a setup for frustration. I mean, is there anybody here is who is never disappointed by the behavior of other humans? If so, then we have saints among us. But I mean, in general, most of us, wouldn't you agree? Most of us, we are sometimes disappointed by the behavior of other humans. We don't like how they behave, what they do, how they think. It's just part of life on Earth. So if you want to choose to make your okayness dependent on other people, you're going to be waiting a long time, I think. That's my that's my take on it. We can't seem to agree on anything, can we? I mean, like as a species, can we agree, is there a single issue that we can get a consensus on? We can't. We just can't. So my suggestion is focus on what is important to you. And if it's important to you to be at peace, to have clarity, to experience harmony within yourself, to have happiness, then I think you can choose. You can either have that or you can try to control other people. Got one that says, I worry I'll become complacent if I don't worry. There's a belief worrying keeps me aware of threats on the radar. Yes, I can understand that one. There are those things and we've each got something, I would suspect, that really, and maybe more than one thing, but at least one thing where we really feel like, I don't know if I can give that one up. Fine. What about everything else? What about all the other things that you worry about that you could stop worrying about? At least stop worrying about those things. Now you might say, well, but if I'm using the approach that you're suggesting, Joey, then how would I know to worry selectively about the one thing? Because it's sort of like an all or nothing approach. And my proposal is, like I said earlier, there's an intelligence in you that is perfectly capable of dealing with all of that. So if you are willing to test it out, uh, you could find something that works for you, where you could maybe commit to just putting this ask framework into practice for a small amount of time each day, and just notice what effect that has in your life. If you're unhappy with the result, if you feel like you're becoming complacent, then just go back to your old way. Because if you think about it, I mean, you've been practicing the old way for a long time, so you're really good at it. We're all really good at the old way. We've been doing it for a long time. So it's not like if you just practice the ask framework for like a week or 2 weeks for 5 minutes a day, that you're suddenly going to become unable to access the old way. If you prefer the old way, you can definitely go back and you can get it just as strong as it ever was. But my proposal is if you're willing to practice for a small amount each day, then you can judge and you could notice, is there actually an intelligence in me that is capable of helping me to discern those things which would benefit me to focus on, and the things that it's best for me to let go of? I think you'll find that that intelligence does exist in you, and it is far more capable of doing the job that you've been trying to do with a part of your mind that really is not up to the job. I'm scrolling through the vomiting comments, their vomit comments, stoicism comments. Okay. I worry if I don't worry. Oh, no, we did that one. Oh, wait. No, this is similar. But I worry if I don't worry that I'll become lazy or not take action. Meanwhile, my anxiety from worrying keeps me from taking action too, due to the freeze response. Yes. So why in the this is why the ask framework is in 3 steps. So for those who are not familiar, ask is a acronym. ASK are the 3 steps of the framework. I won't reveal here what the third step is, but it's the K of ask. Um, I think resolves that concern. So I would be really curious. I would appreciate hearing back from you what your results are with that. Because I think that if you put into practice the full framework, you'll probably see positive movement with that. Okay. So here's another one. Uh, what happened in the past before I came to your techniques was that I was using the staying in the natural state to avoid real life issues. Also, with knowing what you want, I seem to jump from goal to goal. The same issues appear every time, giving up on goals and struggling with the same resistance and emotional issues. Yes. Um, so thank you for bringing this up, because this is a concern that I think many people have. So this is, I think, what some people will refer to as spiritual bypassing. So the idea is that uh, one can use detachment as a strategy to avoid dealing with things in one's life. Um, Now, if genuinely none of those things matter to you, then I would say that's not spiritual bypassing. That's just intelligence. If some of those things do matter to you, then yes, it's spiritual bypassing, and that can be problematic because you wake up one day, whether that's weeks or months or years later, and you realize, whoops, the after the divorce and the lost career and the no money and you got no teeth left in your head and all this, and you're like, whoops, I cared about some of those things. So that's why uh, I don't actually recommend um, that. So the if you notice with the ask framework, having clarity about what's important to you is an important part of this. And uh, and learning how to direct our attention to what matters instead of what doesn't matter. Because 99.999, basically 100%, for most of us, of our attention goes to things that we don't want. And is it any wonder why we end up with so much of what we don't want? I've told this story before, but I notice in my life that I noticed this around the time I was 31. I think I had this, maybe 32. I had this uh, experience where I was, there were so many things I wanted to avoid, and I thought avoiding those things was really important for my well-being. And one of those things was Walmart. Don't ask me why. I can't, I could explain, but it doesn't really matter. And one day, and I had rules. I had these elaborate rules for myself, ever changing, but elaborate, ever changing rules about what would happen if I saw something connected to Walmart. It meant I couldn't eat for a while, was one of the things. And I remember I was driving one day. I was driving. This was when I was living out of a cargo van, and I was driving looking for food that would meet my elaborate rules. And I saw a uh, something connected to Walmart, and I thought, oh well, I guess I'm gonna have to wait for however long I had to wait. It was like, you know, I don't remember how long it was. It could have been 10 minutes or it could have been an hour, I don't know, before I could even think about eating. Uh, and then a short while later, I saw something else connected to Walmart. And the punchline was at a certain point, there was this like a train of Walmart trailer trucks that went by. It must have gone on for several minutes, just so many of them going by. And it was like, the universe was winking at me. Like, do you not see what is going on here? That you're just focused on what you don't want, and when you do that, you get more of what you don't want. And my whole life had become that, what I don't want. And of course, the more of what I don't want that was in my life, the more I felt like I have to work harder. It's like now it's me versus the universe, David versus Goliath. I mean, can you see like that's the insanity of it, is that we place ourselves in this drama as though we are the hero battling against evil. It's not so. We're just fighting with ourselves. So, regarding jumping from goal to goal, yes, and that's also why I make that recommendation to get to prioritize because um, you have to know how to say no if you're going to say yes. Otherwise, you never end up really saying yes. If you just say yes to everything, you're not saying yes to anything. So you have to know what to say no to and how to say no so that you can protect your yes because energy flows wherever your attention is directed. So the first step is you have to get clear on what you want instead of what you don't want, because if you don't, then your attention and therefore your energy goes fully to what you don't want. But once you start to get some clarity about what you do want, if you don't protect what you really want by saying no to the other things, then you're no better off because your all of your energy gets diluted and it amounts to nothing. This is why I tell the story about the king with the bridges, the partial bridges. I'm not going to tell the whole story here, but some of you will get that reference. Holy cow. 81. I can't possibly respond to 81. I could, but that's going to be here a long time. What the hell? I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. So this will see. I just as an aside, I don't. I'm gonna put. I think I'm gonna put this on YouTube, but this is gonna totally. This is totally flies in the face of everything I'm supposed to do on YouTube. The algorithm supposedly favors videos that get long views and stuff. Nobody's gonna watch this whole thing on YouTube. This crazy guy who's afraid of minute rice, responding slowly to people's questions, and he doesn't even give away his whole framework on YouTube. Forget about him. I'm moving on to the next video. Should we accept to look like silly or crazy if we live without worrying? That's up to you. But I mean, come on. You're asking, you're obviously asking somebody who's very biased. I mean, I look pretty silly and crazy, wouldn't you say? It's worth it. 100%. What are you going to do? Think about it this way. Imagine how long are you going to live? Figure that out. You're going to live until you're 99. Let's say 99. So your 99th birthday, last day of your life, you're going to lie down on your bed because it's going to be that kind of death. It's going to be totally peaceful. Your family surrounds you. Oh, we love you so much. Thank you for being in our lives. The whole thing. And you spent all of those 99 years worried about what other people think about you. Will it have been worth it? It gets pretty clear if you think about it that way, doesn't it? And you don't want to live your life like that. You want to live your life to be true to yourself, not worried about whether other people think that you're crazy or silly. Let them think whatever they want. That's their problem. Somebody wants to know, how do we get the ask framework again? So, okay. So for people who watch this on YouTube who are not already on my email list, you're going to have to go to, this does not apply to you because you're here live, but I'm just going to mention because this will go on YouTube. For people who watch this on YouTube who want to get access to the ask framework and you're not already on my email list, you're going to go to the link that I provide in the description on YouTube and you're going to go there and sign up for whatever is there. I don't care what it looks like. Uh, Just sign up for whatever it is. Right now on my website, there's an ebook, looks something like this. It's not going to be there for much longer because I'm going to do something different. But if you happen to go there while that's still there, you'll see that and you're going to sign up for that. Or if that's not there, you're going to sign up for something else, whatever's there. And once you're on my email list, then you'll get access to the Ask framework. There's a video. Now for you, because you're asking this question, because you're here because that means you're already on my email list. Uh, my nose is running. Hold on, I don't have to do anything. I'm choosing get a paper towel out of my pocket and I'm gonna blow my nose. Pardon me for a moment. Um, so you would go to so I've been emailing my list. You're one of you're one of the majority. So you can I don't know if that's any comfort to you, but there's like as of yesterday, 100 like 100 152 people, so 20 more people over the 132, but now 152 people out of thousands have bothered to click and watch the videos. And you weren't one of them, I guess. But you could be. So I've emailed. If you haven't gotten my emails, check your spam folder and let me know if they're in your spam folder. Not that it does me any good, but if be useful, I'd like to know at least. But I've been sending out links to them pretty much every day for many days now. So you should find them there. Uh, somebody herded cats. It's amazing. Meow is a word for cat. So many things. All right. So this is great. So there's like 80, 78, 79 remaining comments, but none of them are questions. None of them are objections. Uh, yeah, sorry. You'll have to, for the person who says their Wi-Fi broke when I talked about your objection, you'll have to watch the recording, but it will be on YouTube. Um, you'll do more meditation or stop worrying. Yeah. I mean, you could do, so your life could be a meditation. You don't have to. Not that I'm in any way suggesting that there's not value in the right kind of meditation done as a specific practice, but your whole life could be a meditation. Instead of making meditation a thing that you do for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever each day, it could be integrated in your life. Bliss, somebody asked about bliss. Bliss is, my nose is still running. Hold on, I gotta get another paper towel. It's one of the nice things about living with children. They get all the things, and then hold on a second. Sure, you wanted to listen and watch me blow my nose. So, bliss is your natural, bliss is what you are. Bliss is your natural state. So you don't get to have bliss. You are that. You just don't notice it because you're worrying. So somebody says my program says it's necessary to worry to prepare for what might happen, but I understand that it's just my program. Yeah. I mean, so if you so I made the distinction between worry and constructive thought. So if you have constructive thought that prompts you and helps you, assists you in organizing useful activity that you follow through on, great, no problem with that. So preparedness is not necessarily a problem. I mean, some level of preparedness is just useful for functioning. Like If I didn't have some level of preparation, if I didn't have a space, if I didn't have, if I didn't organize my life in such a way that I had internet connection, if I didn't have a microphone, things like that, I couldn't give this presentation. So some level of preparedness is useful, but I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So just notice because you could definitely worry about what might happen because anything might happen, and virtually therefore an infinite amount of things that might happen might be things that you would consider to be undesirable. So you could spend the rest of your life worrying about that, and it will do you not a lick of good. And that's all I'm proposing is you don't need to do that. Somebody says it's a deep task resistance where work and business just feels so hard, though it is not. Well, yeah, so getting clear on what you want is useful. I, 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 I'm an advocate of choosing your life. Don't, don't do things out of obligation. Choose. So if you don't like it, nah, like is the wrong word. If it's not something that you choose, then why are you going to do that? Why are you going to do that to yourself? Take the time to get clear about what you're choosing. Choose it. Consciously choose it. When you consciously choose something, then what you're talking about is a non-issue. So the person who had the objection to people says they can admit that people are not dangerous. Well, some people are dangerous. I mean, so there are dangerous people. But I still don't want to receive negativity. Yes. So receiving negativity is totally optional. Uh, See, in order to receive something, you have to be uh, you have to conceive of yourself as something that receives to in the first place. What if you're not something that receives? If you're not, I mean, if you notice in the moment and when you're actually putting your attention or keeping your attention on the direct experience, are you something that receives? I propose that you're not. In the moment, when your attention is with the direct experience, there's no separation. There's no you and something else and an act of receiving. There's just the directness of this right now. So the idea of receiving negativity is not the actuality of what you really experience. It's a thought. So the thought is, I'm something that receives. There are those around me who are negative. If I'm not careful, I could receive their negativity. But actually, if you really observe your direct experience, I propose you'll notice that there's something, your direct experience defies that. It's a different thing. Everything is, there's the actuality of the direct experiences, there's just a flow, there's change, but there's no one receiving anything. Somebody says this inner tension is what has slowed down my progress and growth as a business owner. Yes, that's exactly right. And and now hopefully now you know that you have an option that you could choose differently. You don't have to continue with that inner tension. Somebody says, my problem is realizing that I'm in the worry spiral in the first place until I've been sucked into it for hours. How can I get back to awareness sooner? I get worried I am losing most of my life in mindless sleep, which is the opposite of blissful the way I experience it. Well, what I would say is the the moment that you are aware make the choice to free yourself in that instant. Because what might happen, I think what you're describing is in that moment, then there's the next thought, which says, can't believe that I've been asleep for hours. I can't believe I've been suffering for hours, worrying for hours. So then your attention continues to go to that. Instead, you could just choose, fantastic, done, stop. And my proposal is that the more you give yourself that, the easier it becomes. And actually, what starts to happen is that you never really actually, you never really get lost in it ever again at a certain point. Even though there's the appearance of it, you never actually get lost in it because you start to recognize that it's actually impossible for you to get lost in it. You've never been lost in it, but you kind of have to take the steps to get to that realization. Uh, so somebody says, now is the time I usually worry when people talk about not worrying, like when they kept talking about narcissism and all I thought was that I was the narcissist. Um, yeah, I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't worry about it. Uh, okay. I'm just looking for more objections. Somebody says, I know God is on my side, but God wanted me to meditate with Joe Dispenza. And then you say that like it's a bad thing. You and now you have this option to be free. All right. So how somebody says how to not care. I mean, is it that you want to not care? I mean, maybe it depends on what you mean by care. Um, but even if there's a habit of caring, it's still possible for you in this moment right now, even if the thought comes up, oh, I'm caring's a problem, caring is causing me suffering, I want to not care, you could choose to just shift your attention to your direct experience now. Because all that, just notice that that thought is, it's really just more worrying, right? Like caring is my problem. I need to stop caring. How can I stop caring? You could choose just to be free right now. So somebody says, I'm practicing the Ask framework for a few weeks and I improved the way I communicate with my parents. I don't get angry anymore as I used to. I have much more instant clarity in social interactions. Amazing. Thank you. Um, yes, wonderful. Is there going to be a replay? Yes. Well, I mean, I'm going to put this on YouTube, although the longer this goes on, the more I'm rethinking that, but I'm going to probably put it on YouTube. Somebody says, Joey, you're more detached and more people want to hurt you because they are triggered by you, how to deal with it. Well, uh that's your belief. That doesn't mean it's true. May or may not be true. But um, so let's start with what if it, I mean, if so, what if it's not true? What if um the more you're detached, the less people want to hurt you. So then that wouldn't be a problem. Uh Now let's assume let's consider the possibility that it is true. So the more detached you are, the more people want to hurt you because they are triggered by you. So uh you have two basic fundamental options in regard to that. So one is that you could worry about it, and the other is you could not. And if it happens to be true, then whether you worry about it or you don't worry about it is not going to make it true. If it is true, it is true. So so you could worry about it, and it would still, if it was true, it would still be true, and you would be causing yourself harm. Or you could not worry about it, in which case, if it was true, it would still be true, but you at least wouldn't be harming yourself about it. I mean, or, or I guess there's another option here, which is that you could choose to remain attached to what exactly, I don't know, but you could choose to remain attached, but presumably that's not working out very well. So some like I said, sometimes people behave in unpleasant ways. You could try to control that. It would not work, and you just make yourself miserable. So, maybe maybe you're maybe the people who you're going to come into contact with are all petty, small-minded, unkind people. And if that's the case, then what are you going to do? So we can spend our lives trying to control what cannot be controlled and make ourselves miserable, or we could just choose peace and happiness within ourselves, regardless. I mean, I don't know if it's true, but reportedly they crucified Jesus. What are you going to do? What was he going to do? I mean, he could play small, censor himself. All right. Uh, as egotistical as this might sound, sometimes doing these framework make me somewhat angry because I realize how ridiculous I was. My ego gets kind of hurt that sometimes I'd rather not do it. Therefore, I stay in and keep living in non-desirable experiences. Does that make sense? Uh, yeah. I mean, no, it's absolute nonsense. But but I understand you. And I've been there. So you have a choice. You can keep harming yourself so that you can uh, feel relatively comfortable indulging your familiar habits, or you could choose to free yourself even if it's temporarily uncomfortable. Somebody says, doesn't no mean resistance against that thing? Doesn't have to. No, no, I mean it could, but n no is just a matter of let me think about how I could demonstrate this. So I have two pencils. One, which one is one with a point and one needs to be sharpened. Now, if I could hold them still, my camera is reversed. It's not reversed. It's non-reversed, and therefore it's weird. Um, it's like I'll tell that aside in a moment. But so choose one and look at it. Now notice that in order to keep looking at it, you have to say no to everything else. Now, are you rejecting everything else? No, you said resistance. Is it a resistance? Are you experiencing resistance? Do you have to experience resistance? Sorry, I'm not holding that still. Um, so there's no resistance that's necessary. It's just that it's just a choice. So you choose one thing and then these impulses arise to say, well, what about and you just have to say no. So no is just it's just a no. It's not, you don't have to say no. No would be resistance. Just no. It's just no. Somebody says, I said no last night and they heard me loud and clear and now they're being nice. Great. Uh, just looking for more objections. Okay, somebody says, I feel the worry is justified because the situation I'm in calls for some action or choice that I don't want to make and won't be satisfied either way. Like time is running out, and the longer I don't take an action, the worse the situation I'll be in. I think a really empowering uh, understanding, if you can really understand it, is it doesn't matter. Now, some people don't like that. Some people say, oh, that makes them feel bad. Then don't work with it. But if you can if you can understand that, and if you can work with it in a way that is empowering, then it can be really, really empowering. It doesn't matter. Do you notice how much time in your life you have squandered worrying about, should I do this or should I do that? Should I stay or should I go? It doesn't matter. If that doesn't do it for you, you can let me know. Uh, I've got more suggestions, but I won't give them unless that one doesn't work. Uh, okay. Somebody says that if my email went in your spam folder, then you didn't apply the instructions to get the mail in the inbox. I guess that's probably true. Um, but to be fair, I never follow those instructions. People tell me, they're like, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to reply to whitelist it or something. I mean, not that I don't like hearing from people, but if everybody replied, it'd be too much. Uh, okay, somebody says, I agree, it's not worthy to be yourself for people, but more you're authentic and more you create polarity. How do you do to not take things personally? Use the ask framework. That would be my suggestion. Because if you notice, when you're taking things personally, it's basically just worry, right? So somebody does something, something happens. How do you take it personally? You use your imagination, right? Oh, they're saying that or doing that because of how, because they're trying to slight me, because they're angry with me, because they're petty people, because of whatever. You're imagining that. And then you have that emotional charge attached to it that gives you that sense of truthfulness to it. But that's, but when you can recognize that taking things personally is only causing you harm, then you don't want to do that any longer. So you can use the ask framework to help with that. So you start out, you ask, you know, whatever's happening, is there actually any danger? No. I'm imagining projecting some intentions onto another person, but is there actually any real danger? No. So therefore, I'm free to not give my attention to all of the insane thoughts that I might be having about this. That would be my number one suggestion. Joe Dispenza wants me to buy a house, win the lottery, get a boyfriend. It's amazing. I didn't know that. Um, okay, so somebody says, how do I stop believing my thoughts when the stories they keep telling me are so convincing? Yeah. So what happens after a while, if you were to take me up on the offer and apply the ask framework consistently, it doesn't even have to be that consistent, just consistent enough. Um, you don't have to be perfect with it by any stretch of the imagination. But what starts to happen through that is you start to get the direct realization that you are not who you've thought yourself to be. This may or may not make sense at this time right now, but if it does, then you could notice that who you think you are is it's just a collection of imaginations. And then you work to try to prop that up and protect it, defend it, hide it, depending on how you feel about it. So those stories, you say the thoughts that your stories keep telling you, notice that all of those thoughts that seem so convincing, you play the star role. Has to be. You don't care about anything else. You really don't. I know you think you do. We all do. We think we care about all these other things. You don't care about any of those things. You only care about you. You always play the star role in all of the stories. Tell the truth about it. Doesn't matter, you say, oh, well, wait a second, Joey, what about, environmental degradation? I'm not the star. Yes, you are. Tell the truth about it. Pay attention. You'll notice it's always from your point of view and how you think and feel about it and what it means to you. You're always the central star of the whole thing. When through the repeated exploration of direct experience, learning how to discern between your thoughts and the actual reality of what you actually experience and who it is that's experiencing and noticing, eventually you start to realize there is no distinction to be made between the experience and the experiencer. There's only just this. You stop being convinced of anything. There's the whole the star character disappears entirely. It's no longer any. It becomes totally absurd. The whole idea. I mean, because if you just notice, there's so many presuppositions built into the whole thing. It's like somehow we fantasize that I'm this very important person, and it's really important that I am whatever you think you need to be. We've all got our own variation on what that is, but it's not important. It's not important at all because it's a complete fantasy. Sorry to burst your bubble. Not sorry to burst your bubble. Because if that makes sense to you, then it's useful to you, and if it doesn't make sense to you, then forget about it. It's not it's not the right time. But uh, through the exploration, repeated exploration of the ask framework, that just starts to happen. You don't have to think about it. It just starts to become evident that uh, all of these stories are all about a star character that you thought you were, but then you start to realize you're not that. So then it just ceases to be all that important. Okay, we got 15, 15, well, 10. Somebody says, makes me uncomfortable to choose. Yeah, doesn't, technically speaking, doesn't make you uncomfortable, but you experience discomfort. Um, yeah, great. Discomfort, see, we usually we've been programmed to think that discomfort is somehow a bad thing. Discomfort is only a signal to you to pay attention. That's it. It's just like, hey, pay attention, make a conscious choice. But what happens is we feel uncomfortable and we say, oh no, that must mean I should shy away. It doesn't mean that. It just means make a conscious choice. Become conscious here. So sounds like good things happening there. Okay, somebody says, when dealing with crazy people, there is danger though. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, first of all, why are you dealing with crazy people? I mean, we could argue that like everybody's crazy. But if you're talking about because you say dangerous, so it depends what you mean by danger. But if you're talking about people who could flip out and pull a gun on you or something like that, why are you dealing with those people? I mean, really, why are you dealing with those people? You have a choice. Don't do that. So somebody says, I'm open to suggestions. I can accept it doesn't matter, but I want to put myself in a good situation if I can control it. Well, the best thing you can do, I mean, think about this. If you accept, well, so I repeatedly propose this law of attention as a very fundamental law that determines how creation takes shape. You don't have to believe me. You could believe me. It might be useful to believe me, but you could also just test it out and just see if that actually holds true for you. If either way, if at which point you accept that that is true, then just notice what the consequence of that is. If you put your attention on what you don't want, then you're using your creative power to create more of what you don't want. And that's what most of us do. So I mean, if you want to put yourself in a good situation, then the best thing that you could do, if the law of attention is true, is to have clarity about what you want and to put your attention on that as consistently as possible. And notice that you can't do that if you're still indulging in the habit of worry. Just saying. Somebody says, how best would the law of assumption fit into the ask framework? I don't know. I personally am not motivated to to try and figure out if that works. Um, I would say what uh okay, here's what I would recommend. You could you could put the ask framework into practice sincerely. I don't know how long would be fair. 30 days. And then decide, is it actually lacking something that the law of assumption could provide? If so, let me know, and then I can work with you to figure out how to augment the ask framework, or specifically what it is that you're looking for through the law of assumption. Here's what I think happens a lot of the time, though. I've certainly been guilty of this. We uh, are in pain, and we want to get out of pain, and we try a bunch of things, and then we keep adding more things, and we're afraid of letting go of some of those things. Usually that ends up making life unmanageable. So I think that simplicity is important because otherwise it won't be sustainable. So I crafted this ask framework specifically uh, in attempting to provide something that would be as simple as possible and still provide the fundamentals that will improve every area of your life. So as I think I said in the second of the two presentations, I suggested that uh, it might really cover like 95% of what is important to you in your life. It might give you 95% of the benefits out of a total of 100%. So it might not be absolutely complete in terms of giving you everything, but I think it comes pretty darn close. And considering the simplicity of it, I that's why I gave it as the starting point, because I think if you do this sincerely, I think you're going to be really happy with that. And then if you feel like there's still something missing, then we could go from there. I mean, if you wanted to work with me, I could make other suggestions. Um, Somebody says, I realized my whole life only ugly from inside. People were rude to me to put me down because I was higher. So there's definitely a very significant status is very significant, social status. It's a very significant factor in social interactions. when you really start to, if you were to really examine that, you would start to see how that plays out in every single interaction, every single social interaction you have in ways that might surprise you. So, of course, people are trying to tear you down because they feel small and insignificant and powerless. And it's a status thing that we've all somehow learned. It's so stupid, but it's just how people operate. They think if I can tear down this other person, if I can take them down a notch, then that will make me higher. Yes, let them. It's, I mean, they're not at this moment, they're not capable of anything else because they're asleep. You can't, they can't make the change. So, and even in any case, it wouldn't be your job. Your job is to focus on you, take care of yourself. So let them and don't make it any of your business. Somebody says, can you share how to do the K part more sincerely? So the K of the ask framework, so it comes more naturally. Um, well, I do give the um, instructions for that in the first of the two videos, and and I sent out a worksheet. Did you get the worksheet? Some people downloaded it. Like 34 people downloaded it. Actually, I don't know if they even downloaded it. 34 people clicked on. No, not even 20. Anyway, a few people clicked on the link for the worksheet. If you didn't get that, then you can find it in one of the emails that I sent out over the weekend, I think. Might have been on Friday. Friday or Saturday. Um, I just that would be my recommendation. So I would say use that. Use the suggestions there that are given. So there's a simple exercise. It's simple, but it's slightly more involved that I recommend that you do on a less frequent basis, be that monthly or quarterly or something like that. Uh, that would probably take you maybe 15 minutes to do, which is why I don't recommend doing it every day, among the reasons. But do that once a month or once every 3 months or so. Then there's a daily exercise, which will take you no more than 5 minutes. You could do it in less. It's up to you, whatever is going to be sustainable to you. When you do those things, what I believe is that you want it to be more natural. So natural is just what is familiar and practiced and habitual. And so you can make that more natural by practicing it. Uh, I'm certainly always interested in refining and optimizing things. So I appreciate feedback on your experience using the framework. So try that out. Put it into practice for, let's say, 3 months, and then give me feedback on that and let me know how is that working for you. If we could optimize it, I'd like to know that. The worksheet is for the ask framework. So I had promised in the first of the presentations on the Ask framework that I would provide a worksheet. Or actually, I asked if people were interested, I think, and people said yes. So I promised that I would do that, and I did make that available. And I emailed that with a link to it over the weekend. I might send out a link to it again soon. So if you missed that one and you can't find it, just look for that in an upcoming email. Let me see. I think that might be it. You never received the worksheet. Okay. It was it was it was buried in a PS, or it might have been a PPS, a postscript. It was buried at the bottom of an email, so you might not have seen it. Somebody says, I used to think the problem was other people until I realized it was always only me. So how real are other people? Uh, how real are you? Because they're as real as you are. Um, but the thing to keep in mind is that you're never they could there could be objectively other people, but you don't know that because you only know your experience, which is good news because that means that you can change other people, not control, but change, as in change your experience because your experience of them exists in within you. So when you there are lots of interesting ways to work with that. Just as for example, uh, so I gave a presentation on shadow work a number of weeks ago. You might have heard that or been there. And there's a suggestion that what you react to in other people is actually something in your own shadow that you have not integrated. So one interesting way to work with this is so that you when there's somebody who you've got some issue with, you can notice what is it about. You could choose some experience that you had, some memory that you have of some interaction with that person where you experience this reaction within yourself. And you could ask yourself, and you're just projecting, it doesn't matter. You ask yourself, what was their positive intention in that situation? So you have to go through, sometimes you have to go through a little bit of a values elicitation process, asking what does that give them in order to find out what's the core value they're trying to uh, fulfill. Once you know that, you ask yourself, what inner resources would have allowed them to satisfy that? And when you imagine them accessing those inner resources until you can imagine that they would have been able to satisfy whatever that positive intention was. Now, here's the amazing thing. That person, as I said, that you're not actually talking about or dealing with that objective person. You're only dealing with your own idea of them, your story of them. The inner resources that you think that they need in order to satisfy that positive intention are actually the inner resources that you need to connect to. And when you imagine them accessing those inner resources, you're accessing those inner resources. So you provide yourself with whatever it is that you need in order to complete that whole thing for yourself. Uh, I'm not going to go into more detail on that right now, but if that's workable for you, then you might find that useful. Somebody says, I find that my wants change a bit daily. One of them is inner peace, which is always constant, but the others change a bit, so I likely need to practice consistency. Well, and keep in mind that they will change moment to moment, day to day. There's going to, because this experience is governed by change. It's always change. It's the nature of this experience. But prioritization is important. So if you know that inner peace is, let's say, a top priority, I don't know if that's a top priority or not, but if that's a top priority, then just focus on that. Focus on whatever is the number one most important thing, because that's not going to change really until you satisfy that. So that's the power of prioritization. And it looks like that's it, which is perfect because it's 3 minutes after the hour. So thank you to all of you. Blessings to you. Bye for now. Take care.